Once again, thanks everyone for joining in. The webinar will begin in just about 2 minutes from now. Just waiting for a couple of more people to join in. So we'll be right there. Thank you for your patience. All right, welcome once again, guys. And thank you for joining the Introduction to Rentman webinar. My name is Bogdan. I'm the account manager here at Rentman. With me behind the scenes is joining us Francesca, who is also an account manager and a product expert. She'll be helping out with the Q&A. Now, before we begin the actual webinar flow, I would just like to talk a little bit about the technicalities of it. First of all, you are well allowed and inclined to ask questions, however, only in the Q&A section down below for easier moderation. The chat option has been turned off, so do not attempt to use it. You just won't be able to. During the whole webinar, feel free to ask questions about anything that you would like regarding the software, of course. We'll answer some of the questions live. Some of them will be answered in text, and for some more extensive ones, we will have to follow up in an email later on if there are any such questions. The webinar is intended to last somewhere between 45 to 60 minutes, and it is being recorded. So whoever is attending, or if you're watching this on demand, hi, it will be delivered to your inbox after the webinar. So tomorrow, of course. A little bit about Rentman in general. Rentman is a tailor-made software created mostly for the live event industry. Of course, it has found some uses in other industries as well, but it mostly focuses on the companies who require project planning, who are also planning crew on those projects, equipment, of course, and it also has some quoting and invoicing options as well. We'll be going through the software, through all the basics. Of course, the software is very comprehensive and very customizable because, as we all know, every business is at least a little bit different. So today we'll be going through all the modules in Rentman that we find to be the core ones. So we'll be going in depth about those main functionalities that we have to offer. Um, on the left-hand side, these are the modules that I was talking about. Now, the software is not modular per se, so you can't just get half of these. However, since every employee in your company, everybody that you work with can access Rentman, these can be taken out of their view just to clear out the visibility and, of course, to disallow them to do anything that they are not supposed to be doing. Of course, more on that later on when we go into the user roles, but hopefully I didn't forget to say anything at the beginning. Francesca will interrupt me if I did, but let's begin, shall we? As I said, Rentman is a tailor-made software for the AV and live event industry. And the first bit of the software that we are taking a look at is the dashboard. Of course, there is one thing that I forgot to say. Right now, we are working in the new and improved interface. This was a major overhaul that we have. Well, it is still happening since the improved interface is still in beta. We might encounter some bugs and issues. This is normal. This is what we expect. And soon enough, this will be released official and bug-free. Um, So, if you have seen Rentman in the old interface, nothing severely has been changed except for the visuals. All the functionalities are still there. They have just been rehauled to be more intuitive. And speaking of the dashboard, this is the first module that we are taking a look at, and the dashboard provides an overview of everything that is current in the upcoming week. Also, we can see what is happening for us today or tomorrow. The dashboards, as with the new interface, are customizable right now, so we can edit the dashboard and we can move the widgets as we'd like them, remove them, add them. And a very cool thing is that the dashboard can be well, you can have multiple dashboards. So you can have your own dashboard, whereas your colleague can have their own and see the information needed. Also, one pro tip: if you've got a bigger office, hopefully when when everybody stops working from home, it is a good idea to place these dashboards on big screens to showcase the relevant information for that day. But that's all the dashboard is. It provides an overview. It doesn't have any extensive functionalities with itself. Switching over to the next module will be the My Schedule module, and it is essentially a calendar view of what we have to do right now. And if I take a look at this calendar, it's a pretty cluttered view, but that is normal because we're set to be both an office worker and a field worker. In reality, this is almost never going to be the case. But let's pretend for this instance that we don't need to see the project. Um, so we just need to see the planning, the functions. So if we were a field worker instead of an office worker as well, this would be our view. So if we are a technician, if we are a freelancer, for instance, this is what we would see. Now, all of this is visible from the Rentman mobile app. I'll go into that in just a second. But these blue bars, these are the functions that we are planned on. Or if you want to look at them more simply, it's the jobs that we are planned on and need to be performing in the future or in the past that have passed. If I put my cursor over any of these, I can see some information, and this information is exactly what can be copied over or synchronized with your personal calendars. So if you're using Google Calendar or Apple Calendar, this can be well synchronized. So once a function is created in Rentman, it is also copied over into your calendar as well. But of course, we are looking to find out a bit more than just which project and when, um, which is why we can actually click on any of these functions and this information will pop up. Now, for instance, we can immediately see who the client is, who's the account manager, who's the project leader, where do we need to be, when do we need to be there. Also, if there's any other crew members scheduled on this project or on this function, so that we can contact anybody in case we need some extensive information. And of course, any vehicles that have been planned here and any notes and files that may have been added and are relevant to communicating this project. And of course, all of this information can be seen from the Rentman mobile app. The Rentman mobile app is available for free to use and download on iOS and Android as well. And the idea is that everybody in your company will have access to Rentman. There are two types of users when it comes to Rentman, and that is something that explains our business model as well. There are power users who are the planners in your company, and they are paid additionally. We'll get to the licenses at the end of the webinar, so I won't go into pricing just yet. Um, but everybody else, everybody who is not planning the project, get access for free. So all of your crew members, all of your freelancers, anybody who is executing the projects, will get access for absolutely free, no matter how many of those people are there. Yeah. So one more thing that could be done from the My Schedule module here is you can see that we've got some tiles in green and some in white. So this is the availability that we can set for ourselves or on behalf of our crewmates in case that is what you would prefer. So we can just click and drag here, set our availability, and make sure that our planner knows when we can work and when we can't work. This is something that will go into equation a bit later on when we are in the crew planner. Also, we can see some invitations here and also invitations that we can accept or decline on the top, though that is just one way of planning people on projects, which is of course something we'll handle in the crew planner. But that's all there is to it when it comes to my schedule module. Before we go into the projects and start with the exciting stuff, I would just like to take a quick gander at the equipment right here. So right now we are looking at the equipment list or our equipment database. Now, speaking of databases, Rentman operates with four different databases that would be equipment, contacts, crew members, and vehicles. Well, basically, they are databases because they hold all the information that they need to hold. Later on, when we work in projects, all the information will be pulled from these databases into projects. Um, and of course, we can see some properties that are here. Of course, we can add or remove columns. This is a very customizable view, and it's quite good to be utilized. Now we are looking at the equipment list right now, and it's nothing too special. You guys generally know what you have in your warehouse, but to go one step further, it is important to realize what else can we find out. So first of all, if I click on details of any of these items, this widget will pop on the side. So we can see what the item looks like. We can see which structure it has when it comes to combining with other items. We can see who the supplier is, any notes that are relevant to this in any files. So this can be like an instruction manual or a repair slip or whatever is relevant specifically for you. But of course, let's leave the widgets for now and let's select the CDJ 2000 to open up the equipment availability timeline. Now, the way that Rentman is quite a bit different from other planning software is that it allows you to plan your equipment on unconfirmed projects. This basically means that you can quote out as many options as you'd like, and the availability is split into two different sections, giving you the information at all times about the potential that you can do and the actual which is happening. I know this is a little bit abstract, but once I explain how the equipment availability works, it will be a lot clearer. Of course, at any point in time, if anything is confusing, feel free to ask questions about it. But we have the CDJ 2000 right here. And if I open this up, we can see this cascading to show us what exactly is happening with these CDJs. So the equipment availability is calculated in two different parts. The first one being the plant stock and the second one being the warehouse stock. So what happens is that once we plan an item on a project, regardless of its status, it is taken out, the quantity is taken out of the plant stock. However, only when the project is confirmed, the item gets reserved and it's taken out of the warehouse stock as well. So um, to take an example here, for instance, so here we only have one confirmed project. Well, it's already on location. So instead of 8 here in the plan stock, we can see that it's 7, but right now it is 8 because it has already returned. But yeah, same thing goes when it comes to repairs, for instance. The repair, when you have an item in repair, the availability will be taken out of the planned stock, for instance, because we couldn't possibly plan it because the item is unusable, but it would stay in the warehouse stock because it would physically be in our warehouse. So we can decide that if we need it for a project in 2 weeks' time, we could repair it by then, hopefully. So yeah, that's in short notes how the equipment availability works. It's quite easy to know at all times if you have something available. But if that's not enough, if let's say you get a call from one of your customers and they just want to know if a CDJ would be available in 2 weeks' time for a project, you can actually just click this moon icon or a clock icon. I'm not sure what it is in the top right from any module within Rentman, and you can just type in CDJ and say available from the 16th until the 18th, for instance, and we can immediately see that we have 5 units available for then. It's a cool new feature, quite can come in handy. So yeah, that's about it. Now, that is it as far as the equipment database goes. Right now, we are going to go into projects. And before I start talking about the projects, Francesca, do we have any questions so far?
Not right now. No, I don't see any coming in. Just
All
take a
right,
sip of
excellent.
water
Yeah.
and let's go on.
Thanks a lot, Francesca. Um, yeah, this is just one of the natural stopping points that I have here. Yeah, but everything's fine. Hopefully, I'm making myself super clear. Right now, we are in the project section right here, and we are taking a look at the list of all the projects that we have. So as we can see, this is a lot more colorful than the other modules that we have seen right now. It's due to a couple of reasons. So first of all, we've got the project progress icons here. This is a clear visual about what is yet to be done with the project itself. So for instance, if I put my cursor over this part, it says that all the rental equipment in this project is reserved. But if it's yellow, it's going to mean that it's not fully reserved. If it's red, it means that our rental equipment shortages. So this needs to be taken care of. So it guides you through the flow of the project or just gives you a clear visual about what needs to be done. But just one thing to remember about Rentman at all times is that it is a tool. It's going to give you information. It's going to react to information that you give to it, but don't consider this to be a have to flow. So even though it says that something isn't red, if let's say you do not want to use invoicing features within Rentman, you have your own accounting software. That's perfectly fine with us. You don't have to. Um, but yeah, this view can also be seen as a calendar view, for instance, which is almost the same as what we've seen in the My Schedule module, but also we can see it in a timeline view, which is a very useful view to see it in. And as we can see here, they are grouped by the project type. Now, the project types are a way that we have allowed you guys to group your projects. The example that we have given is the band dry hire production and sale as the industry standards. But of course, these can be whatever you would like. It allows you to color code your projects to see them grouped up like this, and also to assign some specific document templates or invoice moments for those project types. But let's go back into the list view for now, and let's start a new project. So there's a couple of different ways that we can start a new project. First of all, we can duplicate a project from the past, for instance, just like this. We can also start a blank project, um, which would just give us a completely blank project and we would need to start it from scratch. But also we can use the project templates. Now, the project templates are a great way to cut down on the time needed to set up projects in the future. There are also duplicated projects from the past, but they are considered to be like the shell projects for your most recurring ones. So, for instance, if you do wedding productions, and it's usually the same equipment on those wedding productions, the same jobs, the same times. I would recommend having a template that says just wedding production. You open it up, most of the things are filled out. You may possibly make some small changes, and it's good to go. To paint the picture a bit better, we are actually going to use a project template right here. So we're going to do an average 2-day production. We just need to select the starting date, which is going to be the Friday of 23rd of October. And immediately we will be able to see some details about this project. So for instance, we can see the time schedule and we can see the equipment groups that it has. This is exactly what we want, and we are ready to start it. And this is the first and main page of or the general page of the project. Immediately, we can see that we've got a name to populate here, the project type, which we have just discussed. And after that, we can see the status this um, of this project. So since we have just created it, it is in concept, meaning that we haven't done anything else to it. But once we create a quotation in Rentman, it will switch over automatically into pending. Once the quotation has been digitally signed, the project will automatically go into confirmed, thus reserving the equipment needed. Oops, sorry. And for the remaining three statuses, they are for the execution of projects, which we'll take a look at in the warehouse module after we are done setting up our project. Of course, we can select the account manager here, a couple of more details, and we can put in a client here. Now, for the client in this case, I'm going to select the WoW music. It is being pulled from the context database here. So right now, the software is asking us if we would like to copy over the invoice moments for this client specifically, because that is the CRM part of our software. A lot of data can be kept in there. In this case, we say we do. And of course, we're getting a warning note that the credit should not become any higher than 15,000. So a very nifty way of keeping track of your previous deals. We can also see an address here, but this is simply a billing address. And if we scroll down here, we can see a selected location. So the address that we put in the location right here is actually going to be the address that is being used by Rentman to calculate the distance between your warehouse and the location of the event, and later uses that distance to calculate the transport rates which you have set up for your vehicles. So it's a quite cool automatic process, especially in more developed countries, because it does use Google Maps. So it's going to be dependent on the accuracy of the Google Maps themselves. We can also see a section here for extra input fields. This basically indicates that with whatever is not found here when it comes to properties, it can be customized and put in here. In the configuration section, you can put in the extra input fields and they can be assigned to projects, to equipment, to contacts, to whatever you need them to be assigned to. And of course, they can also be shown on the documents that you generate within Rentman as well. Ultimately, at the bottom of the page, we can see the tasks and notes. We'll go into tasks a bit later on, but it's basically small jobs that people need to do about something, notes and files, which are relevant to communicate this project. For instance, guys, prepare for a soggy grass field. And not something that anybody wants to read, but unfortunately, sometimes we just need to be informed to bring proper rubber boots. But yeah, on the right hand side, we can see the project period, which will show as soon as I click on save button right here. There we go. And if you've checked out Rentman before, we used to have save and close. Right now, it's just save or close, quite a bit more intuitive. But yeah. Um, and yeah, that's as far as the general page of the project goes. And to start our official planning, well, what better way than to go into the main schedule? Sorry, the time schedule section. As you can see here, the projects are set up as a step-by-step basis. So first you go from general into time schedule, into equipment, into crew, yada yada yada. But of course, if you need to jump over something, you can definitely do just that. Um, so right now we are looking at the time schedule of this project, and the time schedule is where your planning actually begins. When it comes to Rentman, these two, the usage period and the planning period, are the two core times for Rentman. They always have to exist because the planning period is what is going to determine the availability of your equipment, while the usage period will determine when the equipment is being used by your customer and what you will be invoicing for them. But they can be named anything. They just need to be used as standard, of course. And all other times that we have right here, they are what we like to call operational times. They extend your planning, they make it more specific, and they make it a lot easier to make bold changes should some changes occur. Um, so they can be connected with the equipment and crew and transport groups, which we'll take a look at in just a second from now. But you don't have to use them, or you can use as many of these as you'd like. It's completely up to you. One more thing that we can do here is that we can actually shift the times. So if an unfortunate thing occurs, that your customer tells you that the whole planning needs to be moved up by an hour in advance or a couple of days in advance, it's quite easy to shift the times right now. We just select the time that we need to shift it by, and everything will be shifted cordially, also updating the equipment and crew with itself. Yeah, but that's about it when it comes to time schedule. And to go into the exciting bit, let's take a look at the equipment. So the first thing that pops up here is that some equipment is marked in red. To be specific, this SD8 mixer as well as this stage rack at the bottom of the page as well. We can see that we have a shortage when it comes to the equipment status here, and that there's a couple of things that we can do right here. So you're from the industry, so you definitely know that the ultimate thing that you can do is sub rent from another company, but that costs money, and we would like to help you save up some money. So what we can do here is we can select an SD8 mixer, which we're missing here. We can open up the details. And at the bottom here, we can see that we have an alternative setup for it. It's an SD10 mixer instead. So we can just add it. We can see that it's not in red. We can see that it's just unsaved. So it is available. So we can just take this SD8 mixer, simply delete it, And yeah, voila, we just saved about 300 euros that would have been spent on sub renting. Now, for anyone who's very familiar with the equipment, this doesn't mean a lot, but if you have any account managers, any project planners, which are amazing at their jobs, but just not that familiar with the equipment, because of course you have thousands of pieces, this is a great way to set up Rentman so that they don't actually have to think about it. They can just select the alternatives if need be. But of course, one other thing that we can do, hopefully I'll be able to do it from here, is that we can manually reserve items on a project. So for instance, oh yeah, sorry. Oh, I just needed to save it right here. So what we can do from right here is actually manually reserve an item on a project. So right now we don't have any additional ones to reserve on this. We actually have them on both of these are on confirmed projects already. But by using this method, you can actually ensure that your items are on the longer lasting projects, whereas the ones that you have to subrent are on the shorter lasting ones. So yeah, just a nice way to maximize your profits. But of course, sometimes you just won't have another option than to subrent, which is something that you can do from here. It's perfectly fine, but it wouldn't make too much sense in this case because is um, the project is not yet confirmed. What would make more sense is to go into the subrent module here. So right now we're looking at at the existing subrentals created within Rentman. But if I click on the shortages here, we can see all the shortages that we have across all the projects that we have. Now this can be filtered out so that we can only see, for instance, confirmed projects or just projects with a specific client or whatever filter you guys are in need of. Um, but what Rentman allows you to do is select some of these or basically all of them and create a single sub-rent order for your supplier. Now, I know for a fact that this will save up some time for a lot of companies, especially the bigger ones. So that's a nice thing when it comes to our software. Jumping back into the music festival project that we are creating right now, I would just like to take a quick step back and take a look at the sub projects. The sub projects are a way that you can split your project into, well, you guessed it, multiple sub projects. This will specify the location of the event for each individual sub project. And also, there's a couple of things that we can do with it. So, for instance, we can see a couple of check boxes here. One says planner, one says financial. What this does is if we unclick this box, well, I'm not going to do that, of course, right now. But if I unclick this box, all the equipment planned on that sub project will not be taken out of the availability. So this is something that is really good if you need to quote multiple options for the same client. That way you can make sure that your availability is only affected once, and once your client accepts one of the offers, you can just delete all the unnecessary sub projects there. But by taking the sub project out of financial, it basically means that it won't affect um, any financial sections when it comes to that sub project, so it won't go into the main equation. This allows you to do some internal planning, or yeah, just if there is anything that you need to do when it comes to projects, but you want to plan it but not charge your customer for it, you can just take it out of the financial here. Yeah, that's it about the sub projects. Of course, you can have as many of these as you'd like. If you're taking a look at our demo database, the South Jazz Festival actually has about 18 sub projects or 14. I'm not too sure, but you can take a look at how that looks like. It's quite a bit. It allows for quite a bit. Yeah, tracing back to the equipment list. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about here is the combining of items. This is an industry standard. Everybody wants to combine items, make their planning quite a bit more useful, and a lot of equipment goes with a lot of equipment all the time. So the way that it's set up in Rentman is in four different ways. So first of all, we've got a kit. We can see it right here. This Kiva line array is a great example of a kit because it does have some contents, as we can see right here. So what kit allows you to do is that it's a flexible combination of items. Um, all of these contents will be added with the kit if you add the kit. but also you can rent out all of these contents by themselves in this one or different projects. It will just allow you to do that. Now, of course, since we have added a kit here, this full range speaker might have a shortage, so the entire kit will be marked in short. If that turns out to be the case, if it's not a potential shortage anymore, but an actual one. Now, excuse me, I do need to cough for just a bit. Let me just quickly mute myself. Oh, sorry about that. All right. So, apart from the kit, we also have similar but not the same. We do have a case, and we can see a case within this kit. Now, a quick disclaimer: this is not to be confused with flight cases. It does not have anything to do with flight cases at all. The case in Rentman is an inflexible combination of items. This amp rack is a great example for it. You have an amp rack, you have 5 amplifiers attached to it, and all of those amplifiers are individual equipment items, right? They have their own serial numbers. We want to keep track of them. We want to keep track of repairs and all the specific details about it. But you would always rent out the entire amp rack, and it will always come back as an entire amp rack, meaning that Rentman won't allow you to rent out just one of the amplifiers by itself. Um, the third way of combining items will be the accessories. So if I add a CDJ right here, for instance, if I add a CDJ 2000, it will prompt me if I would like to add the accessories to come with it in the same quantity that was specified. So if I say yes, everything will just be added, and it's just a quick way not to forget anything when it comes to the common accessories for the items. The fourth way of combining items is the one that we have been looking at the entire time is the project template. Of course, when we came into the equipment section right here, well, this entire list was already populated, meaning the items were already combined, specified by yourselves, of course. Yeah, that's as far as it goes when it comes to the equipment. I'm gonna save this quickly, and also what you can also do is just click Alt S to save. If you type in a question mark wherever in Rentman, you will get a list of all kinds of different shortcuts that can be used. And yeah, more proficient users of Rentman tend to use a keyboard a lot more than the mouse itself, which is something that I personally enjoy as as somebody who has been using computers for about 20 years of their lives at least. Yeah. So, switching over to crew and transport, it works essentially the same way as the equipment does. So, first you quote out jobs, not actual people. You quote out jobs, you quote out what you think you have, and then later on you try to figure out how to fill those jobs with. Um, and so same goes for transportation. So for instance, we can see that we need a transportation up to 40 cubic meters here, but also we need a couple of system engineers, technicians for this project as well. So in the prices that we can see right here, these are the prices that will you will be quoting out to your customer, but later on we'll be able to assess how these prices compare to the actual spending that we had on the project itself. Now, I did mention in the time schedule that we can connect the equipment and crew and transport groups with the times from the time schedule. This is exactly it. So whether it says setup or logistics or something like that, all of these are groups, and all the functions that fall under these groups will be taking over the times from these groups. So for instance, we can double click on it and we can see the usage period here. And if I change it, I can actually here, I can connect it with one of the times from the time schedule, thus allowing us for any bulk changes to happen quickly. Yeah, but let's leave that for now. And we are quite satisfied with whatever we are seeing right here. So let's switch over to the financial to see how our project looks like so far. So of course we haven't invoiced anything just as of yet. Once we do, this will be updated, but we can see also some bars here indicating how our project is doing. Once we create a quotation, contract, invoice, everything will be visible here. But at the bottom here, we can actually see the breakdown of what is happening with our project. Now, as I've just briefly described, the the prices that we have quoted out to our customer, those are considered to be the estimated costs. And to best describe this breakdown, I will tell you a short story that I'm sure most of you will be able to relate to. So let's say that you've got a project and you need a sound technician on that project. Uh, you uh, you you know that generally speaking, for that kind of a project, that job will cost you 200 euros. So that's what you will be quoting out to your customer, right? But if it turns out that the person that you wanted to hire on that project is not available, the person that you are actually hiring might charge you 250 euros instead. So after the 200 euros of the estimated cost, this will be the 250 euros of the planned cost instead. But once the project was complete and once the time registration has kicked in, if it turns out that that sound technician has been working for a couple of hours longer because of some unforeseen circumstances, the actual cost might turn out to be 300 instead of the 250 that we planned, instead of the 200 that we have estimated in the beginning. So as you can see, Rentman takes into consideration rental times and offers you a quick comparison between what you have quoted versus what is the actual reality of it. So that also helps you set up your margins a little bit better. Of course, if you're done with your pricing, if you have agreed with the price on a price with your customer at any point in time, you can just lock the prices here, and whatever changes you make to this project, it will not affect the final price of it. Yeah, but that's about it. Now we are about to create a quotation, but just before I do so, I can see one question coming in from Nikolai. I can handle this one, Francesca. No worries about it. He asked if it is possible to disable the details button in the equipment list. It is very annoying. Unfortunately, I don't think it is, but that's a good question, Nikolai. Also, hi, it's been a while since I heard from you. I don't believe that it is, but if we, yeah, and unfortunately, it is. And the most that I can offer you is possibly extend this one, and then you just have less places to click on it. But yeah, that's the most that I can offer as of right now. But if it's really annoying, I will pass on the feedback to our product team. Maybe they can figure something out. But thanks for that question, Nikolai. Feel free to ask any more if you have them. For now on, I'll go back into the music festival and start a quotation for us. So, yeah, we are all happy and satisfied with the project that we have right now, and we are ready to set up a quotation for our customer. We can do just that by clicking Create Quotation. We will be prompted about a couple of different things, but let's say that all of this is fine and we would like to generate it. We will be asked which template and letterhead we would like to use. Let's use the extended template here and click on generate. Now, the first quotation that you create, especially in the improved interface, takes a couple of seconds. Usually it's a lot quicker, and it will be, but there we go. So this is the quotation that we have created, and let me just explain what we are looking at. So the first one is the background. It's this part right here. It is essentially a PDF that you upload to Rentman and that is used as a manifest or as a background for your documents. It holds your company image, your logo, the details about your company, and yeah, it is usually companies use only one or two of these letterheads. But if we take a look at the rest of it, this information, all of this text is what is being pulled from the project itself. The you just need to set up a project. Once you've set up a project, you've basically already set up a quotation for it as well. We are right now looking at the example of this in an extended template. We can also view it in a couple of different varieties as well. But the important thing to note is that the template editor is included in the license. You can find it in the configuration section. So the idea is that you can set up these templates to only show the information that you would like to be shown on all of your documents. It's a part of the implementation process. It's something that is being done at the beginning and hopefully never again, unless some other changes occur. Yeah, but to put ourselves in the shoes of your customer, we're taking a look at this whole list. We are satisfied with the prices and everything that you have to offer, and we are ready to sign for it. What your customer can do at this point is select a click here to digitally sign the quotation, and they will be prompted with this page right here. On the right hand side, it will be your company image. This will be your logo, and your customer can just say, I agree. My name is Bogdan, and this is my email address. I have a fun little signature, and I accept your quotation. Thank you for signing the quotation. The project has now been confirmed, is the message that they are getting. And to go back into Rentman within the notifications, we can see that the quote has actually been signed a few seconds ago, of course. And if we take a look at the music festival again, and if we go back into general, we can see that the status has been confirmed. Thus, the equipment has been reserved on this project. Yeah, it seems like magic, but that's how it is. If you do not intend to use the digital signing functions, you can just skip over it. The only difference that it makes is that you will have to change the project status manually right here, but it's just a second of work. Yeah, so our quotation has been signed. We're quite satisfied with it. One more cool thing, if I go back into the music festival right here, we can see that the quotation stays here, and also I believe that it's also here within files. Yes, it is. So not only the quotation, but also the signed quotation is shown here as well. Yeah, we can see also with the IP and everything that needs to be said. Yeah, perfect. So, right now, at this point in time, we are satisfied with whatever we have created. Our project has been accepted. So, only two things are left to be done. First one will be to schedule the crew on it and then to execute the project itself. Now, I can see that there are no questions, but since I have been talking for quite a bit, I just need to get a sip of water. I'll be back in just a second, guys. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for your patience, guys. Um, all right, so let's go into the crew scheduling. So we can schedule our crew from here, and that is perfectly fine with us. But a more fun way to do it would be to open up a crew planner. Now, I did just that, and we can see the functions for this project happening right here. And this is where we can plan our crew from. So just the simplest thing that we can do from here is say, okay, we need a light technician. I'm going to click on this light technician and I'm going to say, okay, well, Tom is going to be working as a light technician on this project. From this point on, we can say that Tom needs to start a little bit early, he needs to work a little bit later, or his whole scheduling just needs to be moved. But the important bit is that even though the times of Tom's work are completely different than the planned function that we have created in the past, it is still connected to it. So the reality of your project can change, and Rentmail allows you to do just that. Also, one thing that happened after I clicked on the light technician here, and that will happen if I click on the system engineer here, is that the colors on the left-hand side are changing. Pretty obvious, but it says that Mike, Mark, Tom, and Alex are actually available to work on this job, whereas Joe, myself, and Jerry are not. We don't have the information about Ben, Brian, or Amy, for instance, but this is the availability that I was mentioning in the My Schedule module. You can set it for yourself, or you can set it on behalf of your crewmates if you just don't trust the information coming from them. On the bottom side, we can also see if I select as many of these crew members as I'd like, I can also see the compared schedules that we have right now. So here we can very easily see who is available when and who is being overworked, who is being underworked. Yeah, it's just a nice way to do a comparison of our crewmates. There's also a couple of different ways that we can plan somebody on the project, or rather invite somebody on a specific project. From this point on, we can invite somebody for a specific function. Now, let me just remember where we can find that when it comes to the improved interface. Francesca, can you remind me where we can invite people from?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. You have to select the people first, someone, and then
Ah,
you will see
yes,
the
of
invite
course.
button. It's also new for us, guys. So
Yeah, still getting
still getting
adjusted to
used
it.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Francesca. That's why there's two of us in these webinars, of course, as well. Let's say that we would like Mark, Mike, and Tom to work as a system engineer here, but we are just not too sure who is available out of all of them. We can just say invite, and we can invite them for the specific function. Now, there's three different ways to invite people. We can just ask them for the times of that function, so they would receive a message Saturday from 5 until 7. Are you available? Yes or no. They wouldn't be getting any information about the project at all. If we select the other two options, they would be fully informed about the project. However, the first one would work in a first come, first serve kind of thing, which means that the first person who responds positively would be automatically planned on that project. The last option would plant them invisibly, meaning that, let's say, all three of them, so Mark, Mike, and Tom, all three of them accept, they would all be scheduled on this function invisibly, meaning that you would have the last say. So you would be making public only for the person who you decide is going to be scheduled on it. Now, I won't actually invite anybody here, but also one thing that I forgot to mention is that when I do this, even though Tom's scheduling has been changed, Tom will not be informed about it, meaning that he will not receive a notification about it. Uh, that is because, well, any of these movements, any of these changes would have to prompt a notification because all of that is change planning. We don't want to spam people, and especially not Tom. He's a grumpy one. What we can do from this point on, instead of this, is send current planning. So we can select the project and the crew members um, that we need to inform about this, and we can communicate their planning. We can send them the current planning with the asterisks indicating that some planning was changed since the last time it was communicated. And of course, this can be done for as many projects, as many crew members as you need, but that is the important bit. But of course, if Tom opened up his Rentman mobile app and went into his schedule, he would be able to see this function right here. If in a couple of seconds he checked it again and we moved it, he would be able to see that it's different times at that point in time. If we don't want our crew members to see these kind of changes, we can make this invisible. So right now, Tom wouldn't be able to see anything. It's still planned on our behalf. And once we're done with setting up everything, we can just make it visible, make it public for everyone to just know what exactly is happening. Yeah. So that's as far as the crew planner goes. Hopefully, I didn't forget anything. Francesca will stop me. Um, yeah, but that's about it. So the exciting time has come for us to start executing our project. So we've set it up nicely. We've coded it. It's confirmed. We've planned the crew on it. Everything is just fine and dandy. Um, I can actually. I was going to have a stopping point here. Thanks for the question, Nikolai. He is asking if there are any plans for improving the Rentman mobile app. Yes, definitely there are. Unfortunately, they are not a priority as of right now, since we wanted to release this improved interface as bug free and as clear as possible. Now, if you take a look at the Rentman mobile app, it still has the old Rentman styling with the orange and white as dominant colors. The application will be rehauled in the near future as well, but unfortunately, we just don't have the information about when that will be done. We are also looking into possibilities to extend the functionalities of the Rentman mobile app. So if you guys have any feedback about what can be changed and how it can be changed, what it is that you're looking for, please feel free to add it to our product board, the public roadmap that we have, which I'll cover in just a couple of minutes. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Nikolai. Feel free to ask any more if you have during this webinar. Yeah, but just to get back to it, so we've set up everything quite nicely, and the time has come for us to execute the project. Now, one very important feature about Rentman that I haven't talked about just yet is the scanning and tracking features. So, Rentman is able to scan both QR codes and barcodes. So, if you're using any of those, that is great. However, it's only able to generate QR codes. We in Rentman prefer QR codes over barcodes just because of their use in the industry. They are much more susceptible, or sorry, a lot less susceptible to wet conditions, to sunlight, and similar. So they're just a better option if you ask us about scanning features when it comes to the AV industry. So Rentman can scan QR codes, and the general idea is that you would have QR codes on your equipment. So once you're sending the project out, you would take your Rentman mobile app, use the camera function on it or a dedicated scanner, and scan those QR codes. When it comes to QR codes, there are two types of them in Rentman. One of them will be general ones. So a QR code, which means a SM58 microphone, for instance, but also there we do have the serial number QR codes, which specify the exact item that it is, meaning this specific SM58. Um, so it's completely your call and your choice on what is worth being serialized and what it isn't. But we tend to advise people for anything that is at least a little bit more valuable than just pocket money to be serialized, and everything that is just a cheap expendable such as cables to use up general QR codes. Now, of course, the serialized QR codes allow us to have extensive tracking of that equipment, as we can always see on which projects that equipment has been, and of course allow us to differentiate between our items, so that at one point in time we can realize, okay, this CDJ 2000, for instance, has been on 200 projects. It's quite a beat up. Maybe we want to sell it and purchase a new one. Well, it still has some worth. But yeah, let's go back into the warehouse module. Of course, I'm saying this within the warehouse module because this is where you will be doing the scanning. And one important thing, even though I mentioned power users and non-power users, is that within the Rentman, within the warehouse module, regular, so non-power users, free users, can do everything here. I'm emphasizing that because there are going to be some functionalities that are generally only allowed for the power users instead. So we can see the transports here. We can see the scheduled crew here. All of that is perfectly self-explanatory. But right now we can see the project card being here. These are also the statuses that I was mentioning. And to find our project, we need to travel in future for just a little bit to the 23rd of October, and we can see the music festival being right here. So if we are a crew member who needs to execute this, we can either scan this QR code or click book in our Rentman mobile app. Now, the styling is a bit different, but the point of it is the same. In the Rentman mobile app, everything looks more or less like this. And when it comes to warehouse module in general, you can perceive this as somewhat of a digital packing slip. So instead of checking out the boxes on a piece of paper, which is also something that you can do in Rentman, you can also utilize this and say, okay, I'm packing up the equipment and I see this SM58 plus a receiver here, and I scan it, and this thing will happen with it. If I can also click on book equipment, and the same thing will happen. This is how we make sure that everything has been brought out to a project, and also how we'll make sure that everything has been brought back from a project. A couple of additional things that we can do from here is that we can enter additional equipment. Sorry, that is from here, of course. We can enter additional equipment. So this falls under the should be power user permission, because, well, to add any items to a project, you would need to be a power user. However, here it is not the case. So let's say your warehouse crew is backing up your equipment. It turns out one mixer is slightly damaged that can't go on a project. They need to figure out something quickly instead of them calling the planner and then planner making adjustments, and then they need to pick it up. They can just plan an alternative here and save everybody some time. Um, Sorry, that's enter additional equipment. What I've explained is for the alternative equipment, but also entering additional equipment. If something was forgot about from the planner, they can just enter additional equipment here, and that is perfectly fine. But let's say that all of this has been packed out, and we can see that everything has gone to on location, and we can just say, um, ooh, what have I done here? I'm not sure. This might be one of the bugs. Let's try to close this without saving. Yeah, perfect. Everything is supposed to be here, but yeah, well, just to save you guys on time, I expected this to happen. Bugs tend to occur until this is fully released, but of course, we can always just manually move it here and make sure that everything is fine. So, our project right now is on location, meaning that our equipment is not available for any other projects. And when the time passes, we can actually start booking back the equipment that has went out. So the flow is basically the same. You scan or you book the equipment back in. So it happens just like this and it's all fine. Now, of course, this is a part of a kit. So if I scan a kit, everything will go with itself. Um, but also instead of planning alternative and entering additional equipment, what we can do from here is slightly different. So story told so many times, your equipment is on a project, and the singer of the band decides it would be fun to do a mic drop. He drops the mic, and the mic is entered in and can't be used anymore. So we don't want to be the ones paying for it because it's not our fault, which is why we can report it as defective. We can say that it cannot be used. We can say that we want to charge the cost to customer because it's their fault. It's usually going to cost us about 50 euros to fix this. And we can put in a small note here as well, just so we know what has exactly happened with it. Now, once I mark this as defective, a number of things will happen. So first of all, this item will go into repairs. Anybody who is in charge of repairs will be notified about this item coming into repairs. Also, the equipment availability will be updated, so the availability will be reduced. And if I click here as mark as defect and check the availability, I would instantly get a list of all the projects that have shortages occurring due to the absence of this microphone. Yeah, so quite a handy feature. Now, same thing goes for the lost items in case that happens. So we can mark something as lost, although it would not go into repairs, but everything else would be the same. And we can also still choose to charge it to our customers. But yeah, once we're satisfied with everything, we can say that everything is returned, except of course the consumables. The consumables are going to stay here, and we can say that four of these batteries has been brought back, and the haze liquid, well, is all gone, and the gaffer tape, one of those, is back. So we can just say it's done. We are perfectly happy with it. Whoops. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. And we can say that the project status is now returned. So if I click on done, we'll see that the project card is not here anymore. And one thing that I can't show you as a flow because the time actually physically needs to pass is the delete column here. So your project cards will remain in the delete column here if any items have not been returned after the planned period has passed. So this is going to be a reminder if you need to search, if you need to look for some equipment to be brought back from projects, and we know exactly where something has gone wrong. Yeah, but that's it as far as the warehouse module goes. A couple of more things that I'd like to note here is that we have tasks as well. Tasks are a great way to um, to set up small jobs for your crewmates. So tasks can be assigned to your crewmates, but also they can be attached to specific equipment items, to specific projects. So yeah, if there's anything that just slightly needs to be done, but it's not an actual job function happening on that project, I recommend utilizing the tasks. There's also time registration. You can write in your times. The Rentman mobile app also has the clock in, clock out function, which is quite nice. In the maintenance module, you can see all the repairs happening and also periodic inspections happening to your items. And yeah, that's about it. I did mention that we also have quoting and invoicing as well. Invoicing works essentially the same as quoting. You just generate a document. That's about it. And that's as far as Rentman goes in general. Of course, we do have a lot more to talk about. If I were to mention everything that Rentman has to offer, this webinar would go for a couple of more hours, but nobody wants to see that, of course. Now, just a few more things to talk about, and I'll cut this short. I can see that we are already 1 hour in. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the support center. It is a great place to find all the information when it comes to Rentman. You can access it from the top right when you click on a question mark, and you can find whatever you need here. With the purchase of our pro license, you also get access to our support team, which is great. They answer all kinds of questions. They're available for calls and emails and chat during the regular European working hours. Also, I didn't mention the public roadmap. This is a place where you can find all the feedback provided by you guys. Ultimately, it is you guys who decide what will happen to our software, and this is where we gather that kind of information. So you can see here what we're considering. You can see what we are working on and what we have already launched based on your feedback. If you have something to contribute, I know Nikolai does, for instance, for sure. Um, yeah, this is where you can contribute to it. Um, Lastly, we can take a look at the pricing. Now, we do offer a couple of different licenses. The light license is for a single person companies. It is quite basic. It only has a couple of features that we have just seen, and it's limited to 100 projects per year. We also have the classic license, which is for a couple of person companies. It has most of the things, but for instance, it doesn't have the warehouse management, it doesn't have the QR code and barcode integration, and also doesn't have the crew planner. But the pro license going for 69 euros per month plus 29 euros a month additional for each additional power user is the one that we are using. Well, the one that we are selling the most because it has all the features that we have just seen right now. So if you want to get a full one, this is the one that you are looking for. And yeah, that's about it as far as the webinar flow goes. Now, before we bring this to a close, Francesca, do we have any additional questions?
Yes, Nikolai is asking you to say something about the new system of quantity, if possible.
The new system of quantity. Do you maybe know what he is referring to?
Yes, he's referring to the floating stock change and the fact that now the quantity has changed for the equipment items. At least I think that's what he's referring to. Nikolai, let us know if that's not it. But Bogdan, if you go to the equipment
Mhm,
database and open one item.
mhm. Yep. Oh.
Yeah, so basically now, well, before in the older interface, the quantity used to have its own field so that
Hmm.
you could define how much of that of a specific item you had for each item, for each equipment. And
Hmm.
now the quantity depends on that section on the right under the image, which is called stock. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. If you go back to data, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
under the image, there's a stock. And here it basically tells you you can either choose to consider your equipment as a bulk equipment, which means that you don't care about tracking each single item, like it could be in this situation of maybe cables, if your company doesn't care about that. And in that case, you can enter your quantity manually. If you choose the individual one, it means that you are using serial numbers, which means that you want to track your equipment one by one. And then you can basically enter the serial numbers in this area that Bogdan is showing, and Rentman will calculate the quantity on the basis of serial numbers. If we go back to data and select the bulk one, this is what changes. And basically, when you select the bulk one, you can see the new tab that is called stock next to data. And basically the quantity, differently from how it was before, where you could just enter it in a field, will depend on basically scheduled stock mutations that you can enter here. If you get, for example, equipment delivered in the future, you can track it here, and you can also track if you sell equipment. We do have everything written about it in our product updates. I'm gonna leave a link in the chat so you can see it, Nikolai. Let us know if this is what you were looking for, and Bogdan, if you have anything to add, just yeah, go ahead.
No, thanks a lot. I think you've covered it quite nicely, a lot better than I could have. So thanks for that, Francesca.
No problem.
Um, yeah, so this is basically it when it comes to our webinar. We are about 70 minutes in, so I will just allow for a minute or two longer to see if any other questions pop in. But if not, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. As always, we have these webinars every couple of weeks, and of course, we always try to do some additional webinars to this as well. We do have a webinar page currently on our website where you can see some more extensive training webinars that we have to offer. Or of course, they are recorded, and of course, we'll make sure to inform you uh, once we schedule some new exciting ones in the future. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for your time. Really, thank you, Francesca, for filling in and helping me out. And yeah, just happy testing, happy using on Frontman, and I hope you guys stay safe. Take care.
Bye bye.